What's good? What's good? It's your boy Deke. We're back talking Steelers ball, Bleach Report. You know what it is. Middle of the week, and I'm feeling great, man. The Pittsburgh weather is unreal right now. Blue skies, crisp fall air. It's awesome. And we know the Steelers, 2-1 on top of the AFC North. We've been talking about that the last couple days. And to be honest with you, we don't have any issues. We don't really have much drama. We don't have much negativity surrounding this team right now, which is awesome. Like the worst of it is we're talking about Tomlin's press conferences and if he's lying to the media and if he's not using the best verbiage that he could. Some stuff from the past with James Harrison, Big Ben talking about New England. So what I'm going to do for this show, we got a jam-packed show today. This one's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about those three things I just mentioned, just rapid fire off the top of the intro. I'm going to give some shout outs to the chat, and then we're going to talk about the main subject at hand, and that's how the Steelers stay on top of the AFC North for the rest of the season and win the division. I'll break that down, and then if we have time, I'll answer some of your questions in the chat at the end. But first, I mentioned Mike Tomlin in his press conference. He had some conflicting things to say over these last couple weeks. And to be honest with you, it doesn't bother me that much. So this is in reference to the Steelers offense and whether or not they lost their mojo. So before week 3, this is after the poor performance that we had against the Cleveland Browns. He says we have to get our mojo back. We have to get that mojo we had in preseason, playing fast and fluid with confidence, individually and collectively. We've lost that, to be blunt. And then after our week 3 game against the Raiders, where the offense looked pretty competent, looked like a legit NFL offense, 23 points in the first 2.5 quarters, closed out the game on the final drive. He says, I'll be really transparent with you. I didn't mean it last week when I said you guys asked me the question repeatedly in a bunch of different ways. And I've given you the same answer. So sometimes I'll just give you a colorful answer with a word like mojo, just so you guys can run with it and we can all move on with our day. I don't subscribe to mojo or intangible like things, all of that BS. We've got to work harder. We've got to put together better plans. The guys have to understand those plans and make subsequent plays. My reaction, to be honest with you, I don't care about this one way or another. However Tomlin felt about the Steelers losing our mojo or not, it did look like we lost our mojo. So to be honest with you, I thought he was spitting facts there, but really it doesn't matter because whatever's going on behind the scenes, getting our mojo back, losing mojo, if it has to do more with preparation and hard work, like Tomlin says, it needed to get better from week 2, and it did. So I really don't care about this. We know Tomlin is an expert at saying everything so eloquently while also saying absolutely nothing at the same time. So this isn't new. And what's that one phrase? It's like actions speak louder than words. So that's what the Steelers did last week. Doesn't matter what's said in the media. Tomlin's job is to win games and get this offense right, whether it's mojo, hard work, whatever it is. And we got right in week 3. The other thing, I mentioned James Harrison. And he said recently he doesn't think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm here to tell the man that thinks he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame that he's wrong. Because I'm telling you, if you look at some of the people that have got in recently, James Harrison has as good of a case, if not better, than those players. The NFL Hall of Fame, probably considered the hardest Hall of Fame to get into, at least traditionally, is starting to turn in more and more into the NBA Hall of Fame, and it's way easier to get into now than it was back in the day, essentially. I mean, NBA Hall of Fame, I'm trying to think, who are dudes that got in and you're just like, how? Like, come on. Hardaway? Tim Hardaway? Didn't he get in the Hall of Fame? Like, yeah, that's ridiculous. Anyway, here's the quote that he said. As far as Hall of Fame, it's at the bottom here. As far as Hall of Fame, it's a lot of things that go into it. And I believe numbers is one of those things, And when you look at my numbers, they just don't, for me, they don't equate to what the numbers should be. And then here's the full tweet from Dov Kleiman. He says, do you agree or disagree with him? Harrison finished his career with 84.5 sacks, 150 QB hits, 34 fumbles, 811 tackles, 34 passes defended, 8 interceptions, 128 tackles for loss, and a safety. His accolades: Defensive Player of the Year in 2008, made 4 All-Pros. Now, I think those numbers could be different depending on what you're looking at. Maybe 4 total All-Pros, first team and second team, but I think he only made 2 first-team All-Pros, 5 Pro Bowls, and then also 2 Super Bowls. And don't forget about the pick 6 in the Super Bowl against the Cardinals in 2008. I told you, I feel like the NFL is letting a bunch more dudes in the Hall of Fame that in the past wouldn't have deserved it. So I'll just rattle off a few names that I think James Harrison has as good of a case, if not better than, to make the NFL Hall of Fame. Jimbo Covert just got in recently, and he's a Pitt guy too. He went to Pitt, so hail to Pitt. I'll give him his props there. But in terms of the NFL, when you compare him to James Harrison, I don't even think it's a question. This dude, offensive lineman for the Bears, only a 2-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, and he won a Super Bowl with, that 1985 team. James Harrison, we just, you can still see it up on the screen right here. A lot better accolades. Terrell Davis, he got in recently, running back for the Broncos in the 90s. Now, he had an incredible 4-season stretch. It was probably the best 4-season stretch for a running back in NFL history. Multiple Super Bowls. I think he won MVP. You look at the stats, like he was absolutely going off. But for James Harrison, he had a same kind of case as an edge rusher. One of the best 5-year stretches for a dude rushing the quarterback. 5-time Pro Bowler. I mean, you see all the accolades on there. That happened. All that happened in a 5-year stretch. Depoy, 4 All-Pros, 5 Pro Bowls, 2 Super Bowls. That happened in he won the 1 Super Bowl before. That's when he was more of a special teamer. But the Super Bowl 43 championship, that was in the 5-year stretch that we're talking about with James Harrison. So if they're letting dudes in off of historic short stretches, a la Terrell Davis, Harrison got his own short stretch as well, where he was achieving greatness. And then a couple other names, Tony Baselli. You could look up these dudes' stats. I'm telling you, Harrison's, again, as good, if not better. Tony Baselli, Drew Pearson, Cliff Branch, Leroy Butler. And if you want a 1-to-1 comparison, Joe Klecko just got in last year. Pass rusher for the Jets. Less career sacks than James Harrison. No Super Bowls. No historic plays in Super Bowls. No depoys. Less Pro Bowls. And the same All-Pros if you're considering first-team All-Pros. James Harrison, better case than a guy that played the same position as him, or at least was passing or rushing the quarterback. James Harrison should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry he's being humble right now, but he shouldn't be. He should be a Hall of Famer. Absolutely. Him and Hines Ward. Last one before we get into how the Steelers win the AFC North. I will be quick with this one because I don't think I need to add much. Big Ben and Jerome Bettis on Big Ben's podcast. We're talking about Big Ben's rookie year and Big Ben's second year because Jerome Bettis was the running back for those teams. And Ben had an historic rookie season, went 13-0, ended up losing in the AFC Championship to the Patriots. And that was the whole story where Jerome was thinking about retiring. Ben told him to come back because he's going to win him a Super Bowl. And the rest is history. But they have this whole conversation, and Jerome Bettis is recounting the story and laughing at it, being like, man, Ben, you're the one that threw 2 picks in the AFC Championship. How do I trust you to get me back to a Super Bowl? But then Ben says, as you can see in the tweet right here, to be fair, the Patriots cheated. And Jerome Bettis says, for sure they did. Now, this is old news. We didn't need to hear this to know that the Patriots cheated. But it's always a friendly reminder that we should be looking at those early Patriots Super Bowls with an asterisk. We've heard countless stories from Rams players from the 2001 Super Bowl, Steelers players from that AFC Championship game, like Big Ben here, the bus. Also, you've heard from Hines Ward, Joey Porter. They've talked about how the Patriots knew these teams' plays, the Rams and the Steelers' plays, that they've never ran before, and they knew them in those respective games, the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship. How so? Well, we know for a fact that they were caught by the NFL with a Spygate scandal, got punished, and everything. And who knows? It probably was even worse, but those tapes were destroyed by the NFL. Hashtag conspiracy. But yeah, this is old news here. Big Ben, Jerome saying nothing wrong. Again, just a friendly reminder that we might need to look at those Patriots early Super Bowls with more of an asterisk than what a lot of the mainstream media does. But all right, let me give some shout outs to the chat and then we'll get into the main topic for the day. Shout out to all you guys being here. We got Jabo 42069. He's been in here the last couple times. Shout out, man. Scott Monticelli too. What's good, man? Bravo. We got a hater. He's either a hater or I don't know. Yeah, he's either a Steeler fan that leans more pessimistic, or he's a Browns fan, or some type of division rival fan because he says the Steelers ain't winning the North. TJ Patterson 20's in the house. JT 47. What's good, man? He says Kenny just getting started. Absolutely. Absolutely. Bravo. He says y'all should trade for Kyler Murray. Yeah, he's definitely a fan of another team. But shout out for being here, man. Appreciate the engagement. Appreciate the comments. No, we're not trading for Kyler Murray. That's going to be an interesting scenario with the Cardinals. If Josh Dobbs keeps playing good, and you know we have the connection to Dobbs because we drafted Dobbs way back. What was that, 2017? He's been around here for a minute, but only as a backup. Never got a chance here. He keeps playing good. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe they'll stick with Dobbs and try to trade Kyler Murray at the deadline. I don't think Murray's going to be back that fast, but this could get interesting. If Dobbs keeps playing good and the Cardinals weirdly stay competitive, who knows? Dre Jones 121 says, Deke, what's up, fam? What's going on, bro? J-Bo says, Deke, how's it going? I'm excellent today. I'm excellent. How's everyone else doing, man? Rob Lane says, Murray is nice. I think he's overrated. He's not bad. Like, he's top 12, top 13, I guess, when healthy. Feels like he folds in big moments more than what he should. That's all. Too many times the Cardinals have started off blazing hot in the regular season and then just start to collapse down the stretch and either miss the playoffs or they're one and done in the playoffs. See, I disagree with this. We got E. Jackson 24. Says Steelers don't got the ish to make it work to compete. I disagree wholeheartedly. And you know what? We'll use that comment as our segue to get into this, man, because I think the Steelers do have what it takes to compete in the AFC North. So we're just going to go off the premise. The Steelers win the North. Let's talk how it gets done. How do the Steelers become kings of the North again and reign supreme in the division? From the looks of it, here's my first point. Through these first 3 weeks, the AFC North, all the teams, including ours, I will say that, including ours, have some pretty bad offensive lines across the board. So we got to witness the Browns O-line firsthand Monday Night Football Week 2. We got 6 sacks on Watson. Lamar Jackson, I got to see him get sacked 4 times last week against the Colts. Indy's pass rush was getting after it. The Ravens really didn't have many answers for Indy right there. And it was making Lamar uncomfortable. He didn't have his best of game. And then I don't need to pull up any stats for the Bengals to tell you that Burrow is in big trouble this year with their offensive line. I know they tried to make some upgrades over these last 2 off seasons, but dude has 0 time and he's already banged up with a calf. So what does all this mean? And again, yeah, our O-line can use some help too, but I'm going to hope, and I do think this is going to happen. It's not just going to be blind hope. I do think we start to get it together and gel more and more as the season goes on because we look better in the Raiders game compared to weeks 1 and 2. And it just so happens in weeks 1 and 2, we may have faced 2 top 5 front sevens and defensive lines in the league. And it's a difference between preseason and regular season. I think as a whole, and I've talked about this with Kenny Pickett, I think it matters to get the rust off in the regular season because it's a different type of speed. So I'm going to chalk it up to that. We did get a new piece added to this offensive line in Sayamalu. So maybe it's just going to take them some more time to start gelling. Now, I guess that could be the argument for these other teams in the AFC North or whatnot. Sure, whatever. But what those teams are going to be going up against in our defense consistently whenever we play them is the best pass rush in the NFL. And this is not hyperbole because the Pittsburgh Steelers are already leading the league in sacks. And you saw it on Sunday night. When our pass rush is balling, it doesn't matter what our secondary is doing. Jimmy G and the Raiders, he couldn't even get through a read and a half before we had a dude that was either sacking him, pressuring him, or hitting him. So that's what it's going to be like. And from what I've witnessed thus far in the AFC North, man, those lines are pretty weak. And if you want to compare the other AFC North defenses to ours, they don't have as good of a pass rush as ours. They don't. Kenny hasn't been getting sacked as much as a Watson with 6 sacks, Lamar 4 times last week, and just what I've been witnessing with Burrow and that Bengals offense. We do have some of our issues with the O-line, but it's going to be worse for the AFC North teams because whenever they face the Steelers, they are literally facing the best pass rush in the league. There's a reason why you could argue edge rushers are the second most important position in the league after quarterbacks. That's why they get paid. You know, TJ got paid $29-30 million per year. Nick Bosa just got paid $34 million. So we got a TJ Watt. We got the best defensive player in the league. And also Alex Highsmith, who we just paid a chunk of change this offseason, who I'd argue is a top 10 edge rusher. So I think that's something that gives us an edge in the AFC North. Our pass rush going up against a bunch of these teams' subpar offensive line. That's one thing. But going back to that comment that said, I don't think the Steelers have enough juice to compete in the AFC North, you know, I think you're wrong. I think we have the best roster as a whole from top to bottom. We got the best safety in the league. I already talked about TJ Watt. Best pass rusher in the league. Edge rusher. Best defensive player in the league, even. I mean, however you want to frame it with TJ Watt. He's the GOAT right now in terms of defense. Top 10 pass rusher, Alex Highsmith. I already mentioned him. We got a top 6 tight end, Pat Freiermuth. We got an ascending superstar receiver in George Pickens. Won't be surprised if he's top 10 by year's end. We also got a top 20 receiver, at least. I mean, he's a former Pro Bowl receiver, and Deontay Johnson gets the best separation or top 5 separation in the league whenever you're talking about the position. He's hurt. He'll be back. Cam Hayward, don't forget, he's hurt. He'll be back. He's, you know, a top 5 interior defensive lineman. Young studs and a JPJ, Keanu Benton, they're already showing their value early on in the season. An inside linebacking core that looks so much more improved than last year. We're getting back to Steeler football. You know we like our hitting from our linebackers, and that's what these dudes are delivering. I just feel like it's time, man. Like, don't you guys get this sense too? We've been through the growing pains of a full season last year without Big Ben. The quarterback questions, Trubisky to Pickett, finding our identity on offense, almost making the playoffs last year, going on a 7-2 run to finish the season. It feels like we're ready. So we went through this whole offseason with some expectations, our young core growing up. And then even early in this season, we've dealt with some growing pains. Like I said, I think we've had to get up to speed a little bit with the regular season. Like, this is Kenny Pickett's first time going into an actual season as QB1. I just feel like it's time. Now, I guess the argument for some of the other AFC North teams is, oh, we got quarterbacks more proven, or we got players more proven, teams more proven in the past. Like the Bengals have gone to a couple AFC championship games. Lamar Jackson has won an MVP in the past. The Ravens have made the playoffs however many times over these last, 3-4 years. That's the past, man. We're talking about the future. Lamar Jackson's MVP was in 2019. Joe Burrow doesn't look like Joe Burrow from the last 2 years. And to be honest with you, the Browns are the Browns. They're just going to find a way to screw it up. Let's just be real. So, I mean, I'm talking about the Steelers edge rush or the pass rush and everything, how good we look on defense, how good we look, I think, from top to bottom as a roster compared to the rest of the teams in the AFC North. The biggest question mark, if I'm just being honest, would be Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada, right? What's this offense going to do? Are we going to reach his full potential? Is Kenny Pickett going to be a guy? And I got to see it last year. I think this week 3 game that we just won on Sunday Night Football is a big deal. Kenny looked light years better from what he did from weeks 1 and 2. First multi-pass touchdown game of his career, actually. Best game I think he's had in his career. I got to see this last year. Once we got things clicking on offense after that bye, it didn't stop. The momentum just kept going and going and going. Pickett got better week in and week out. The offense got better week in and week out. So why wouldn't that happen here? Like, what would be the reason that it stops? We found success. We found more and more what works for this offense and this new team in 2023. Why would it stop? So I get it. You could say, all right, Kenny's not proven yet. He's still young. I mean, you got Joe Burrow, you got Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. They've done things in this league. You know what I mean? They have a better track record and whatnot. I get it. But I'm calling my shot here. I think Pickett is in that class. I think he's going to prove to be in that class. And I said Sunday Night Football is the start. I think those multi-pass touchdown games are going to start coming in waves. I think the offense is going to consistently be putting up 20 points. So you combine that with this defense, the league's in trouble. And here's my other thing, too. People have questioned in the past, can Kenny Pickett compete with these other AFC North quarterbacks, right? Can he keep up? Does he have that type of upside? Well, I'll argue right now, I mean, it hasn't been pretty in the first 3 weeks, but he's about there. Look at these stats. I know Lamar Jackson has some more rushing yards. He has some more rushing numbers that you can add to his stats, but straight passing stats here, it doesn't look like Kenny Pickett's that far off, huh? Has the most passing yards out of the 4. Tied for the most passing touchdowns. Now, yeah, he has a few more picks than I would like to see, but he's only 16 starts in. So for those that think Kenny Pickett is not up for the task in competing with these other quarterbacks in the division, I think you're going to be greatly mistaken. I really do, because this Sunday night game was just the start of what's to come. I saw it last year, improved every game. I think he got his feet under him. I think he settled in more for this 2023 regular season. And I think the sky's the limit. So I'm calling my shot there. Yeah, if you want to say Kenny Pickett hasn't done as much as the rest of the quarterbacks in the AFC North, fine, whatever. I can't really give you an argument there. I can't, because they've just been in the league longer. But Kenny is 16 starts in. I just showed you the stats for this season. He's not even far off from the quarterbacks right now. If you want to argue his stats are better, you can make that case too. But I think he's only going to be improving more and more as the season goes on. I stand by my claim. He's going to be in the elite conversation when the season's over. So the 3 main points I have right now for how the Steelers win the North is Kenny Pickett's ascension. Just went over that. I think we have the best roster as a whole from top to bottom. And the AFC North has pretty bad O-lines, and we just so happen to have the best pass rush in the league. Last thing that maybe some people aren't considering is the advantage we're going to be getting from a schedule standpoint. Remember before the season started, I told you, like, Steelers, I think, had like a top 10 easiest schedule in the NFL. And then a bunch of the other AFC contenders had like top 10 to 15 hardest schedules in the league. And we already went through our toughest opponent, I would say, in week 1, San Francisco. Like, they're the class of the NFC. Between them and the Eagles, one of those 2 teams are going to be the 1 seed. The other is going to be the 2 seed. But then let's look at the rest of this. We're 2-1 after San Fran, Cleveland, and Vegas. This week we got Houston, and then we got Baltimore. 2 very winnable games, 5-1. Rams, they look like a disaster on Monday night against the Bengals, a Bengals team that looks all out of sorts. Jacksonville, they're not the same as last year. Now, they might start hitting their stride by midseason or whatnot, but I made that call. I feel like Jacksonville coming into the season, young team, an organization that isn't used to those type of expectations or aspirations of being a playoff team year in and year out. Yeah, they haven't been as good. 1-2. Tennessee, they look bad. Green Bay, Jordan Love showed me some stuff, but no more Aaron Rodgers at home. Very winnable. Cleveland, Cincy. Of course, we got to play the AFC North. We got Baltimore last game of the season. But then you got Arizona. We'll be able to take care of business with Josh Dobbs. New England, they look bad. Barely beat the Jets last week. Indy. Okay. A-Rich looks intriguing, but we can all agree they're not in the top echelon in the AFC. They're not in the top echelon in the NFL. Cincy, another AFC North team. Seattle on the road. Okay, that might be a little tougher. But our schedule is not that bad. And then you got to consider, too, Cincy and Baltimore, because of what they did last year, they have first-place schedules. Obviously, they got to play the AFC North as a whole. But they got to play, in terms of the outer division games, first-place schedules, tougher schedules than what we got to go up against. So not only do I think we have the best roster, I think Kenny Pickett's going to ascend into the elite class and be able to battle with these other AFC North quarterbacks and outduel them. We also have the best pass rush in the league going up against subpar O-lines. We also got an advantage from a schedule standpoint. So all these reasons are why we are going to be the class of the AFC North and be the Kings when the season ends. But that's it for my AFC North spiel. Let me check out the chat, man. What are you guys saying? If you have any questions, too, I got a couple more minutes here. Drop some questions if you have about the Steelers, about the NFL, whatever it is. Drop some questions. I'll answer them. What do we got here? E. Jackson 24 says this dude said y'all gonna go 5-1. You're telling me the Texans aren't a winnable game? I just watched the Texans win against the Jaguars. That was 100 times more about the Jaguars imploding than it was the Texans being a good team. The Jaguars made mistakes left and right and gave the Texans excellent field position every time they stepped out there on offense. Texans aren't that good, man. Texans are not that good. And then we got the Ravens. I don't know if you've watched ball over the last 2-3 years. We got Lamar Jackson's number. Consistently turns the ball over against us. And I wonder what our record is. I know Big Ben was undefeated against Lamar. We definitely have a winning record against him, right? We have to. So yeah, we could definitely be 5-1. That game's at home too. I love how my man's saying this with confidence. E. Jackson 24 says, y'all won't beat Houston. All right. It's going to be just like last week against the Raiders. It's going to be a pseudo home game. Steeler Nation takeover. Is it still called Reliance Stadium? Is Texan Stadium still called that? Najee Harris says, to be fair, no one has an answer for TJ Watt. You guys got any questions? Oh, this is a good point with the Titans. I just brought up the Titans. Bravo says, what happened to Henry? Yeah, Derrick Henry don't look the same either. It's been a tough year for the running back market. I know they had their whole holdout thing, the Zoom call. We got to fix the running back position. We need to make sure we get paid. But how this season has played out, I don't think has done them justice at all. Nick Chubb hurt. Saquon Barkley hurt. Derrick Henry not doing that good. What else? Josh Jacobs not doing good. He was on the Zoom call. Or no, he probably was on the Zoom call, but he was also the one talking about holding out. Has not been good. Okay, Brady P has a question here. Is it time for Broderick Jones to start? I think we'll get a clear picture by the bye. I think last week wouldn't have been a bad one to try him out in because he would have went up against Tyree Wilson, and he's been underperforming for the Raiders. He's a rookie, so it would have been good to have Broderick Jones as a rookie go up against another rookie. Two dudes with not as much experience, but I think it could have been a confidence builder for him. Now let's see what Dan Moore does over these next 2 weeks, and if it hasn't improved, I think it's time to pull the plug. Get Broderick out there. Like, he could do at least, I would assume, as a first-round pick, a guy that we drafted in the top 15, we traded up for, he could at least do what Dan Moore has been putting out there, right? At least. He can at least do that and hopefully provide us better upside. B. Strouderman, do you think JT would fit our downhill running style better than Najee? Jonathan Taylor? Sure, but we already got Jalen Warren. I don't need Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor who? We got 30. Steel 2112 says time for JPJ to start. He's getting more and more snaps as the season goes on. Didn't he get up to, was it 24 snaps last week or was it 34? I can't remember, but he played a fair amount and he looks good when he's out there. So I just think his role is going to increase. I think it's just going to be this slow thing where we just keep building him up. We keep getting him out there, and it's, by midseason, he will be a borderline starter for us, probably getting out there 60 to 70% of the time. And think too, our cornerbacks had pretty tough matchup last week. I didn't think Levi or Pat P looked bad in the Browns game. Obviously, the 49ers game was a different story with Ayuk, but I didn't think they looked bad against the Browns. We just didn't have an answer for Devontae Adams. So let's see how we do against Tank Dell, Nico Collins. They've been doing some things with CJ Stroud down there in Houston, but that should be a better matchup for Levi and Pat P. If they look bad against them, and then if they look bad against the Ravens receivers, then yeah, we might seriously need to just put JPJ out there as CB1 or CB2. Just make it official on the depth chart. I think they'll be fine, though. I do. What are your thoughts on Levi Wallace? He's solid. He's not like a bona fide CB1. It's weird because I don't remember him getting cooked that much last year. There was only one game. Outside of that, like, he was always competitive, not giving up big plays. This year, it feels a little bit different, but I do think it's also somewhat overblown. I think he looked good in the Cleveland game. And he didn't look – it was a mixed bag against the Raiders. I was going to say he didn't look terrible because he also got the picks too. He could have had 3 picks, actually. So, yeah, he'll get opportunities to make up for it as the season goes on. I still think he's solid. I don't think there's a reason to push the eject button on him just yet. All right, I'll say a couple more. Edgar 511 says, I think King needs more reps. I'm with you because I think he'd help with our run defense. He's just a Swiss Army knife. Former All-Pro. We got to see him in the kick return game, even though he didn't do anything. Yeah, I'd like to see him out there more. Lord Dre 10. Okay, he brings up a point right here about Levi Wallace. He gave up 2 runs on CMC and Jerome Ford. You're right, and I think that's why how bad Levi Wallace has been this year is getting a little overblown because of what he's done in the run game, and he's been a part of why we gave up 2 big runs. But in coverage, it hasn't been terrible. Would I say below average? Yeah, I'd say it's been around average to maybe slightly below average. But then he's had some highs in terms of getting 2 picks last week on Sunday Night Football. But in coverage, he hasn't been as bad as what he's been in helping stop the run. We'll put it to you that way. And cornerbacks aren't known for being the greatest of tacklers, but he needed to make a better effort. There's no question, especially against Jerome Ford. He was a little lackadaisical in trying to catch him and tackle him, whereas Minkah Fitzpatrick was full speed and put himself in the hospital just to try to make a tackle, just to try to stop Ford from getting a touchdown, which he did. I mean, he fell short at like the 1 yard line. But all right, I think that's it, man. I think that's it. As I said, Steelers will stay at the top of the AFC North. I think I made a pretty decent case for that as to why it's going to happen. And then, yeah, we obviously talked about some of the things that are just being discussed in Steeler Nation right now. I don't even want to say drama. I don't even want to say issue. It's just, yeah, these are just some headlines and storylines that are being brought up. James Harrison, Hall of Fame or not. Big Ben talking the Patriots cheating. We've known that. And then Mike Tomlin saying that he lied to the media. Is what it is. Not a big deal at all. If this is the worst of what's going on, it means we're in a good spot. Because we are in a good spot. We are. A lot of people still say we need to fire Canada. I didn't see enough from the offense still, but trust me, we're heading in the right direction. We are. Things are going to start clicking more and more. I think Kenny, this is only the start. When we're talking about 2023, I think this is going to be a pivotal point where sky's the limit, man. Sky's the limit for him in this offense. So watch out. And we get Deontay back after the bye. We're going to get Cam Hayward back at some point after the bye. Watch out, man. JPJ, he's only going to be getting more and more snaps as the season goes along. Keanu Benton, he's only going to be getting more and more experience. He's only going to be getting more and more better. I think the biggest question mark, and we've talked about this, is the offensive line. Is the offensive line going to improve? On paper, it should, because we've paid these guys, especially in the interior, a lot of money. We've doled out some heavy resources on the tackles. Broderick Jones, drafted him in the first round. Chooks, we've paid, what's he getting, like $12 million a year? He's getting double digits a year to play right tackle. And at this point, for 2023, that's too much for what he's been giving us on the field. But all right, that is it, man. That is it for today's show. I will be back Sunday after the Houston game, post-game report. We're going to be talking about that Steelers dub. Hopefully my man's in the chat that was guaranteeing the Houston victory. Where's he at? What was his name? We got those receipts, man. We got those receipts. But, all right. Stay chilling, everyone. Shout out Bleach Report for having me back. Tune in for the Sunday post game, and peace.